Recently, I was tagged in a mid-year board game tag video from Bits in Biology. Great channel, by the way. Highly recommend you go over and checking her out. Really unique take on board games as it relates to biology. If that's something you're interested in, that is a wonderful kind of niche channel that will dive deeply from a biologist's perspective into games. So go check her out. Click off this channel. Her link is in the description, and go sub, please. The premise of the video was to tag other content creators to then go answer this set of questions as it relates to we're at the mid-year point in our 2024 board game journey, and we're going to take inventory on kind of where we've been and answer all of these questions. The twist that I am introducing, however, is a little bit different. In fact, I looked at a few of these different videos where other creators have done the same, and they basically tagged all the creators that I would probably tag. So I'm actually tagging you. So as I go through each one of these questions, pause the video and throw a comment with your answer before hearing mine. I don't care if you put out 8 different comments for each and every question. In fact, it helps the algorithm, which is my evil plan, or not. I don't know. Either way, go and comment and answer the question before me. Listen, and let's have some dialogue in the comments. In fact, that's what this video is more about, is dialogue between each of you, not just me, but go in and read what everyone else has to say. I think it's really interesting, kind of halfway point in the year, where we are in our journey and kind of what games we played and what we liked, what we didn't like, all that fun stuff. So we're going to get right into it. This is going to be rapid fire. This isn't me waxing poetic on each of these games and giving deep overviews. It's just answering the questions. First question is most played. This is sort of a toss-up between Gaia Project, Brass Birmingham, and Root. I believe, as the best I could tell, it's probably Gaia Project with around 20 plays, most of which are on BGA. And Brass kind of goes along with Gaia Project in that it's another network builder. I've talked for a little while on how I am kind of deep diving into network builders. I haven't put the content out yet. I'm still working on that project, but I played a ton of Gaia Project, and early on I didn't really understand it, and even now I don't fully understand it, which I think is pretty intriguing. There's a lot of asymmetry with different factions and why and how you might play the game. It's an incredibly tight resource management, engine builder, network builder in space. It's the spawn of Terra Mystica. Also, Age of Innovation has been kind of parlayed off of Gaia Project. I don't have a perfect grasp on this game, but it's pretty incredible. So that's what I've played the most. I'm not going any further there. More to come on Gaia Project for sure on this channel. My biggest surprise is twofold. Daybreak #1 wasn't on my radar whatsoever. I think I might have seen No Pun do some coverage on it, and I came across it at the friendly local game store, grabbed it. It feels like Pandemic. It came from the creators of Pandemic, and also reminds me a little bit of Spirit Island. The cascading failure, cooperative nature really holds tension to this. You can be different governments, but essentially, I guess what you're trying to do is solve the climate crisis. And I did an entire video on it, so I won't waste any time here. I was just really surprised about the engagement and how much I actually liked that game. It's also a really beautiful game in a kind of minimalistic manner, I guess. The other thing that surprised me was Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. I had no idea how I would react to Sleeping Gods, highly narrative, kind of open world adventure. And I didn't know if the story would be enough to kind of keep me engaged. Typically it's not. I need mechanics. And I was really surprised at the mechanics and how fun the resource management was, how fun the combat was, and then how the story, which is I think primary for most people, was a really nice secondary complement to the actual gameplay. So completely, surprised there. And that had me go try Primeval Peril, which is Sleeping Gods Distant Skies Light with a little bit of a different setting, even though it's in the same world. You're traveling up and down a river. I really liked that as well, and wasn't as surprised because I had already played Distant Skies with very similar mechanics. All right. Next up, favorite art and production. This is another tie here. I was highly impressed with Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire could have used pixelated game art. It had its own art created, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. The production on the Kickstarter deluxe copy I got was unbelievable. The mats, the bits, everything is great. You know, the cards, the sleeves, it's just the minis, it's an incredible production. It really is wonderful. The other thing that was less surprising, because I had already gotten Void Falls Deluxe edition, was Septima from Mind Clash Games. Septima was a beautiful game, and I think really underappreciated. I don't know if it missed its mark in not delivering before Halloween, but it really got very little praise once it finally delivered. It was a little bit late, like I said, but I think it's a really great kind of entry to Mind Clash Games, but I wouldn't call it entry level at all, especially once you add in all the components in the full game and such. But the production on this was absolutely beautiful. And really, it's the aesthetic more than the production. So the aesthetic is definitely still there in the retail version, the cheaper version. It's just a beautifully crafted game overall, and absolutely loved it. All right, next up, Shelf of Shame. What is the thing I am most excited to get off the Shelf of Shame? Well, I have a new entry here that I'm trying to get off the Shelf of Shame right this second in Robinson Crusoe, as it's on the table right now. I'm going to punish myself by playing that a little bit, but that's not technically on the Shelf of Shame. It's off now. We're getting it to the table. Revive is actually a fairly new addition to the Shelf of Shame this half of the year. It's still in shrink. It was in the network building category in one of the top-ish games. So as I started to look into network building games, it was there. I think it's a little less network building facing than some of the others, but I'll still get it off the table. I'm excited about that. I know that the expansion also just, I think, reprinted and dropped, and people really like that. I'm not going there until I know that I like Revive. If you've watched my video on expansions, you know why. What else? Imperium Horizons, I have unboxed, I have sleeved, I have read and set up, and it went back into the box, and just other projects came in. I really want to get that to the table. I might even do it today, now that I'm thinking about it. That honestly seems, even though I have Robinson Crusoe on the table. I guess maybe I have ADD. I don't know. Role Player Adventures was one that I really wanted to play in the midst of the hype, and then I pre-ordered it for the second printing, and it finally came, and it's still sitting in shrink in my garage. I really want to get that on the table. And then it's ISS Vanguard, another narrative-based game. It's really overwhelming. I feel like I may need like time off from work or something to like wrap my head around that one. And I've also been appreciating simple, easy to table games, especially in terms of trick taking. If you haven't seen that video, go check that one out. So it's harder for me to sit down and spend a couple hours to learn a game, get it set up and all of that stuff. And honestly, I think the unboxing and initial box setup of that game was enough to kind of scare me to go any further right then and there. But that is the one that's probably pulling at me the most right now, is I really have to get that to the table. My best discovery, that is 10 years or older, and it's Concordia. And Concordia was not on my radar whatsoever. It was sort of on my radar as I started to look into network building games and the project I'm working on. It wasn't near the top with Brass, but it's certainly up there. I think it definitely is in the top 10, maybe even top 5 network building games, if my memory serves. I could be wrong on that. Either way, I honestly just got this to the table, and wow. I mean, network building, resource management, resource production, deck building, which I had no idea that there was a deck building element. I would say it's deck building light, deck building not super interesting, but deck building certainly, because you're using cards to take actions, but you're essentially trying to, spread your empire out there and set up, settlements that produce certain types of goods. But there's a lot of little quirks and really interesting wrinkles in how it's executed, especially in terms of your kind of hand management in the deck building side. But I'm just scratching the surface on that. I can't really speak heavily to it. I just know it was one of those games that immediately my brain starts tingling on, because it is lighter than Brass. I think it's a full complexity point lighter on BGG. I guess no, I think it's lighter than Gaia Project, similar to Brass. I have no idea, but it's a lighter certainly lighter than Gaia Project and easier to kind of conceptually understand. And the rules are really kind of simple, and you don't have to, there's not a lot of overhead there, but there's a ton of implied complexity. So I'm playing the Steam app right now. I also have physical copy, which I definitely want to get to the table with my wife. The theming, I think, is what stopped me from really caring about it in the past. It's just not particularly interesting. And, you know, Cult of the New has enveloped me and stopped me from finding this really wonderful game. So at least I think I'm 4 or 5 games in on this one. It's exciting. I am really excited that I discovered Concordia. Anticipated releases. This is an interesting one. So these anticipated releases, I'm guessing, might hold my game of the year, which is relevant in the next category. But Windmill Valley, I really enjoy Danny Garcia and his designs. Arborea was a really great one. Barcelona, even better in my mind. And Windmill Valley is Danny Garcia's next game, and there's some really interesting mechanics there. So I'm interested to get that to the table. Something that I just late pledged for, Defenders of the Wild. I hear it's been on kind of lightly on my radar, and then I think it just popped up into the hotness, kind of signaling that it's going to deliver very soon. And the late pledge is closing in a couple days, so FOMO got me. But I hear Root and I hear Spirit Island. It's a 1 to 5 co-op game. Cute woodland asymmetric creatures trying to fight off these mechanical baddies throughout the woodlands. That definitely feels a lot like Spirit Island. So both of those games I absolutely love. So I have to give this one a try. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting, there's no like big deluxe version. I think this thing cost me like $55, which in today's day and age seems like a steal if it's a good game. I'll let you know about that one, obviously. Andromeda's Edge as well. I love Flamecraft. I like Flamecraft. Flamecraft is a really good game, one in which I use to kind of take somebody from introductory board gaming to intermediate board gaming a little bit. I also love Mission Catastrophe. So this is Cardboard Alchemy's newest edition here. I've heard some Dwellings of Eldervale, but in space and better. So I'm interested there, definitely. I actually haven't played Dwellings, and that's probably a miss on my part. I probably need to get that one to the table. But right now, I'm highly considering going with the deluxe, but I think that's just an idiotic move. The retail is so much cheaper than what I can find the deluxe for now. There is no late pledge, but there are pre-orders. Looks like it's like $200 on the deluxe, and this is where I'm really fighting FOMO, especially in a game that I don't know I'm going to love. I really have enjoyed Cardboard Alchemy in the past, so I can't say I won't do that. My number one most anticipated game, and I think this is just like, I'm totally caught up in the fever pitch hype, which is the number one game on the hotness right this second. I've also fallen deeply in love, even more so with Root this year. It's Arcs. I've also fallen in love with Trick Taking. Trick Taking as a mechanic for action selection seems super interesting. Area control with lightish or lighterish asymmetry over Root, I've heard, and from what I've seen, a relatively more simple rule set. I am incredibly excited for Arcs, and I definitely have it coming in a few weeks, I hope. And I think my best game of the year might live in these top 4, and my guess is Arcs, but that's just a silly thing to say. But something that is more concrete is what is my favorite game year to date. So through half one of 2024, favorite game. And I have to say, I really struggled with answering this. And for a brand new game that delivered in the half, I'd have to say Slay the Spire. And if you've watched the video I did, you might be a little bit confused there because I talked about how the video game is better. The video game is better, but also the video game is elite, like absolutely elite. The implementation of this game, and if Slay the Spire digital never even existed and I just got this board game, I would be completely enamored. If I didn't have an easy access digital version, I mean, this would just clearly be just like a mind-blowing game. You know, deck building, bossish, baddie battling, combo-tastic, wonderful. It's just such a good game, and the board game implementation is really spectacular, especially if you want to use it as a co-op game. Solo, I'll still stand by. I recommend the digital version for like $10. Like, it's just kind of a no-brainer. At the very least, go play that before you go buy the other one. Regardless, it's probably my half one game of the year. I have some honorable mentions. Like, new to me, Gaia Project is probably the one in which, you know, it makes sense. That's why I've played it the most. It's out of desire, not me trying to review it. I'm really heavily engaged in that game right now. And in half one, the game that I've fallen even more deeper in love with. So this wasn't a new game. This was a game that I've kind of been enamored with for a long time, and it's Root. Root I've fallen in love with as a 2-player game. Since then, I found a 4-player group for Root and have now seen, you know, it just explode in my mind share, which is probably a future video. But yeah, so those are the 3 things that, like, this first half of the year has really kind of occupied my mind, lived rent-free in my mind, if you will. Slay the Spire, Gaia Project, and Root. One bonus category that I don't think was in here, which is the biggest disappointment, was Seventh Citadel. Seventh Citadel was something I was really, really excited about. I really hoped that I loved the system just because the world seemed so interesting, and it just wasn't. So I won't go any further than that. I did an entire video on that one as well, so go check that one out. And lastly, my favorite video that I've produced in half one of 2024, it's Lost Ruins of Arnak. I mean, that to me raised the bar in my production. It just is kind of next level. I don't know that I'll ever make anything that involved again. It's just a project I'm really proud of. So if you haven't watched that, you know, go watch it. If you want to support me, go turn it on and walk away if you don't care about Lost Ruins of Arnak. If you think you don't like Lost Ruins of Arnak, go watch that video. I might be able to sell it to you. Either way, it was a big production and something that I am really proud of. So hopefully what you've done is paused and commented on each one of these questions. If you haven't done that yet, go look in the description. You'll see the block of questions there. Answer them in one comment, and I'd love to hear about it. I'd also challenge you to go and look at everyone else's comments and, you know, maybe chime in on the conversation. Recently, my videos have done really, really great in terms of engagement from you all, and that has been really fun to see. I've been seeing interactions between you all in the comments, also just really thoughtful responses towards me, and those are the things that keep me going. 100%. I absolutely love that. That is such a good sign in terms of kind of like health of this community. So I thought that was really, really awesome. So with that said, I am done. Go answer the questions. I'll see you in the comments. Have a great week.